Do the roll call.
Stevens?
Here.
Bachman?
Here.
Dallas? Nope. Ms. Williams? Here. Mindy's no. Derek will be late, and Mr. Polk?
Here. Okay. We have the minutes here, and we're just going to ask for a motion and a second to approve those.
Move for approval.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Okay, Barbara, thanks again for being here, for helping us. Was that difficult to compile all this stuff from the last time?
Not too bad.
Okay.
Seth took good notes. And
Recording, so that helps.
yeah, and the recording helps too.
I'm not going to make any promises tonight.
It probably wasn't even close to your report. You probably had to cut.
Appreciate you doing it.
It was some council meetings that.
Yeah.
we had.
Luckily, those definitely has a recording up.
Yeah.
Seth, I'm going to hand it over to you. Maybe you can tee it up here for that. First thing, the old business. I guess one piece of old business, if I can say, a few minutes ago, I offered to kind of write a couple pager on encouraging the city to kind of lean into new housing. And I've started that, and what I'm going to do is email that to the group, and I really want everybody, if they can, to just give me their opinion on it. I don't want to assume, I don't want to say anything in that thing that either strikes you as not reflective of the discussions we've had, or if there's something in there that you feel like is, you take issue with, do it. And it's not going to be a tome. It'll be, at the end of the day, it'll be about 2 pages. And just the kind of the flavor of it is just going to be, again, encouraging the city to kind of lean into more housing. We need more housing across the board, and you'll see it when you get it. But once you get it, just give
I agree. I think we do need new development.
Yeah, sure. Good deal. And I'm hoping to have that to you by Monday or Tuesday. So,
Derek?
Hey, Derek. How you doing? Good. All right. So, any other old business? Okay. Seth, can I hand it off to you to tee it up?
Sure. Yep. So if you recall, at the last meeting, we were able to get through goal 1 and goal 2 in terms of talking about priorities. And really the priorities will then kind of inform our 5-year plan for the implementation, I guess the 5-year implementation plan that we're going to present to council when this group's work is done. So tonight it's really just a continuation of that discussion. We're going to move on to goal 3, connected parks, and goal 4, great streets and infrastructure.
All right, let's start with the connected. Just like the last time, I was thinking about this morning, but I know we have, we had these priority columns here. We're going to rank those. I don't know about you, but I felt like it worked better that we just had a discussion about this stuff, and then Barbara can kind of pick up the themes. That's okay. That's good. So let's look at connected parks, and Seth and I were on this committee, and I'll just kind of go through these. Obviously, I won't read them I won't read the whole every column, but one was to prioritize the current budget with the most impactful return on investment. And I think we all, I believe that's happening. You wouldn't do that otherwise. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to keep doing.
Mm-hmm.
We also said investigate potential of Meadowbrook to be a multi-use park facility above and beyond golf and restaurant. And I guess maybe we could talk about that for a second. Mike and Brendan, just as current elected officials, can you give us some context around the discussions that have happened there?
Go ahead.
I mean, really kind of what's kind of happened the last couple of years. I mean, obviously we've invested. We did put a priority on the facility was a big thing, getting that up to snuff, because for the last couple of years we have done really well. I mean, pre-COVID, we were pretty booked solid on events there, as far as banquets, weddings, things like that. So the initial investment was a lot into that. Getting the course kind of cleaned up, especially after tornadoes, and now that it's a public course. So really beyond that, and I think we haven't really kind of discussed what's a real like big plan for Meadowbrook overall. I think there's a general feeling that yes, we want this more than just a golf course, and we want to make this known that this is a Clayton public facility that has a golf course and a banquet facility on it, but some other things. We just kind of haven't figured out, what those other things. Even Mike and I, we're ironically, we were out there today and discussing some things, and that was still maybe a little bit more on like the things that would be for like banquet, another outside wedding venue, things like that. So I guess to kind of answer your question there, as far as the idea of a connected park and multi-use, haven't really much discussed that.
No.
Yeah, and I think we do feel that if applicable, it would be a benefit. I think there'll always be that. The biggest thing would be affecting the golf, just because of the layout of it. We're probably not going to want to do anything to affect that. I mean, there's a part of me that say, well, I'll just make it a 9-hole course. That would affect, and utilize other space, some spaces for other things, especially near the entrance. Probably would have a significant impact on the golf business, and that is revenue maker.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
And I've heard several people say that it's really one of the finer courses in our area. So I think that speaks to kind of keeping the course intact. I know we've talked about the ideas of possibly doing, walking paths and things like that, but you have the issue of safety. But how can you expand with some space that's available, I'd say to the south of the clubhouse? How can you expand, the park, sort of the park facility or community center facility? What can we add where maybe families can come? I mean, we do have some great events, especially around 4th of July, but are there other things that we can add that families can do and come to and enjoy, the park? So I think it's great to have on the list. And I know we've talked internally as well, actually fairly recently, about things that can be done there to help, maximize profits and also to make it a more complete facility for the community. So
what current programming that's not golf related do we have there, other than Memorial Day fireworks?
it's a
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Yep. We do a Halloween event there, is my understanding.
Easter egg.
Do Easter
Christmas
egg.
breakfast with Santa.
Yep.
Most of those are geared, obviously, indoors, unless the Easter egg hunt is the one that's big and weather dependent.
Movie in the park.
Movie in the
Yeah,
park.
movie in the
That
park.
was the
Do
one
that
I
on the
was
driving
thinking of. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that's always on my mind about Meadowbrook, I think we need to figure something out, with it, to get more people there and everything. But one thing about it, there is a contingency, and I don't know how big it is, but there's some people that don't like Meadowbrook. That the fact that the city owns Meadowbrook, because golf courses, like swimming pools, don't mix well with city budgets, because it's always going to be a cost. And we had a couple of years ago when we had people that had issues with the taxes and things like that. Their biggest argument was, well, we need to sell Meadowbrook, because that's going to always be a drain. So I do understand that, because I'm not a golfer, and if it weren't for
You did all right today.
the one golf, yeah, let's face it, I'm not a golfer. But so people that don't golf really don't go there. I mean, some people have never been there, so they don't. There's little appreciation. There's, it is true. It really is a nice course, and people that golf there a lot say that. But there's a reason that there's no other golf courses around here. There's a reason Dayton closed their 2 golf courses last year. There's a reason Trotwood Golf Course went out of business, Pantera out of business, those things. So, there's a marketing component, and there's a use component that we're going to have to figure out here. How do we, you're exactly right. Last year, was probably the best year we ever had during the pandemic.
It was closed for,
Yeah, and closed for 2
yeah,
or 3
well,
months.
we had, we were actually one of the last golf courses to open up because we were still, it being a city facility, and we were using it like the banquet halls we were using in case we needed to house like some of our EMS and police in case they were exposed. So we kind of had an apprehension to open it up. Yeah, we still had most rounds ever just because obviously the pandemic, people were, so golf is a game that you can socially distance. And,
Well, I think we
and
got
a lot of-
a lot of the golfers from that, had been to Madden and Kitty Hawk. Didn't have a place to golf. Now, if you're north, that's really the only course up there. Vandalia has one, and then you have to go further north. So I think there's a lot of potential. There's still a lot of deferred maintenance. We were looking today, like in the, the old days of the country club, when it was a country club, there was a lot of unused space down there that we need to do something with.
Inside the
Inside,
building.
yeah, there's like the locker
It's
rooms are
huge
huge,
facility.
Mhm.
and of course no one uses it, these days. So
That's an interesting question.
it's a really, it's a little bit, but I think whatever we do, I think you got to keep in mind that there's some people that are going to be always going to be against that, and believe me, they were pretty vocal.
Yeah, that was
weren't they?
in our information. I was
Yeah.
reading some comments in there.
Yeah. So I think it's got a lot of potential, but I think we need to figure out something else that's going to fit in there to add it. I've always, in my mind, I've always thought, it'd be great to have like a restaurant there, overlooking the golf course. There's a lot of great views.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get a good cook,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of times people would go to Madden just for the lunch or the the lunch pretty much.
It's the placement of the clubhouse is difficult to have it as, like we have the grill there.
Mhm.
They pretty much just operate around the golf.
Mhm.
We tried, I think, for a year or two of kind of having more regular hours during the golf season, and it just didn't bring in the business where they would have maybe an hour or two where nobody was in there. And it also makes it difficult when we try. We tried to put it, and we put out try to get some interest in maybe someone coming in and taking it over. Our current caterer is pretty much the only one. There's a lot of people who are including like Bill DeFreeze, who at that time he was still in the restaurant business. Just said like it's they're just an issue of the amount of people you're going to get in with the placement of the clubhouse. So that's a barrier of things for that there. But
Can you explain that a little bit more? The placement of the clubhouse.
just it being further off the road.
There's not a lot
yeah.
of businesses. You're not going to get a lunch, to go there.
Yeah,
A lunch crowd, you have to drive there.
Yeah.
If that was, if the clubhouse was like, if we were to build a brand new clubhouse, we'd do it right up at the front end. We could run a full restaurant and everything there, and that would gain, just because you think about the traffic in that area, and if you were to put like a restaurant right at the front of it there and advertise it, that place would probably do great business if it was a quality place. I mean, as far as
to go type building or something.
I mean, there's a lot of space in the front entrance. I mean, especially when you're going up and to the left, and you've got some area, in that section there is a corner that isn't utilized for golf or really anything. So, if you think about it from that aspect of developing, park or, a mini park or something in there. Mike and I were discussing the old pool area, which has obviously was filled. I think that got filled in the year after we bought it. And, nobody's running pools anymore like that. So, potentially, there was the idea a few years ago of, well, do we make that section, like clean up that pool house and make it an area for like outdoor banquets for weddings, things like that. And I mean, Mike and I were looking at that, and it's like, and one thing, it's like, it's small, and things around it or that side of the building have, there's like a staircase that's pretty much shot. And
Well, it's roped off.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
way shot.
It's
missing steps and everything.
So it's one of those that would be a heavy investment just to make that spot usable for that, and then you'd have to clean up some other areas surrounding it, which probably need to happen regardless. But yeah, it's I think because of the layout and the size of it, it wouldn't add in a whole lot. It's not a big enough to say, oh, well, you know, because a lot of places are big enough where you can have an inside in and outside thing going on at the same time, weather dependent. But you look at then right below that, there's just a field. I don't know what was kind of down when it dipped
Tennis
down.
courts.
Oh, that's right, the old tennis court. You know, there's potential in that area, and it's kind of far enough away from the golf to where, you know, could you put in a little, you know, playground area, splash pad, something. I saw you would just was redoing theirs, but I'm just throwing that out there. But that front entrance to the left area could, you know, be utilized for some non-golf activities. You know, it takes some more money. Now some trees have been cleared out from that side. You know, obviously, you know, we talked about signage change in the city, so it would be a multifaceted thing to let the public know, like, you know, hey, this isn't just a golf course.
Yeah.
And the overall time of, I think Bill said he still gets the occasional call of, is this still a country club? And I think he said he still about once a year gets one. Is this still the Jewish country club?
You have to be Jewish to golf
Yeah.
there?
It's like,
No.
yeah.
Was it at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like
That's back in the 60s.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the late 70s.
Long
and
time
change.
ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, you think that it's kind of just unused space, right?
Is there any opportunity to cobble together adjacent properties that are unused right now to it?
It's landlocked.
Is it landlocked?
All those homes are.
Yeah, you got condo association and you got Valley Brook and
Yeah.
you got Taywood Road, 49. You can't go south because that's Trotwood.
Yeah.
That's landlocked.
The golf course from either the condos or Valley Brook.
Condos are right on the course, so you could, you know, yeah, it's definitely walk there. From Valley Brook, we'd actually talked about, I had, because part of our discussion on the parks, our discussion was there is a spot there that we actually may have access to. There's actually a little creek there that runs from Valley Brook to the golf course. So, I mean, we could even have some right of way there, but the people there have like a pristine yard. And, you know, I mean, I hate to call the person and
Can we
even
walk
approach
through
it.
your-
Yeah, can we make a
yard?
path through your yard?
A recent event involving a prominent Dayton businessman and his right of way on the golf course, so I don't know if that's a good
Well,
idea either.
Yeah, you know, but you know, the thing about Meadowbrook that I've always thought, and I just don't think we've done a good job of this as a city, because I think it's just money. You know, it's always going to be a money issue. But I think I think the clubhouse could be used for other things besides the rentals. I think about things like, you know, Inglewood Government Center. They do like an art show.
Yeah.
The schools will have art. We could have things like that, community events like that would actually, you know, I don't know how many people would come there, but I don't know how many people go there. Probably parents, you know, go there.
Yeah.
To see the art shows, but the school kids have art shows. I thought about things like we have enough space. Of course, being a golf course, you don't want to tear up the course, but you know that would actually be a great place for a car show.
Mhm.
You know, those are things that we could draw people to, and it's really, in my mind, kind of you know, we don't have I wouldn't say this in front of Elaine, but we don't have a full-time marketing person. I think Elaine's done a fantastic job, but that'd be, you know, if we hired a full-time marketing person to focus on Meadowbrook, then I think we could have a lot more events. I think just random things like that would make it more of a community, because I mean, I don't care any way you cut it, it's a golf course. And if you don't golf, you know, you're probably not going to just drive over there.
And we have, you know, right before COVID hit, the community market was doing the winter.
Yeah.
Winter
monthly,
market.
and that had huge attendance.
Yeah, if somebody had on their plate to focus on Meadowbrook, I think it'd be, I think we could get a lot more things going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you would need some more like social media marketing and get people to bring. There's a lady in Dayton, her name is Tay Winston, that does the entrepreneurial shop. What's it called? Yeah. And she's the one that just hosted the one in Trotwood at Old Salem Mall. And she's gone around to a couple different places and hosting these food truck rallies and all kinds of pretty big events like that. So
That was massive.
it was
I couldn't
very,
eat. I mean, it was.
it's too many people in line.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
weren't hurting for my business. I went and talked to a
Right.
few people I knew were there. It's like, oh, you're not hurting for $5.
Right.
So,
So, I mean, I know that there are people in the city that, have those connections and are able to get the word out and draw the crowd. So that wouldn't be too bad of an idea to try to, at
Try
least
something.
part-time
Yeah.
person.
Or even a UD intern or something
Yeah.
like that. Like, I don't know if that would be.
We've done it so far. The people that do it now are basically, I think it's really a group effort, but kind of Elaine's kind of been, I think, targeted for Meadowbrook. Elaine Whitman, who works here, and then we have our Parks Commission people, which help do the legwork, and council and staff.
Yeah. Right.
We all go there and man it. And that's, and no one has a problem with that. I actually enjoy that stuff, but like I said, to keep events like that going, it's going to be hard to rely on the amateurs and, of us. And we probably need to get somebody somebody who can actually focus on it.
That's a great space, though. I would hate to see it go away. I think it has so much potential.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away. Like I said, unless we, if the city ever gets into, financial straits. So far, we've done, we're really frugal here. I mean, people that, all of us residents, have to know that we're super frugal here in Clayton. But if you want to grow, you can't always be super frugal. We got to take a risk and get out there.
we've gotten some grants, for some of the things to go in there. Our staff is phenomenal at that. I mean, or Jack said he was probably coming back here after we're golfing, just write up another grant. For something. So I don't know. I mean, like I was discussing as far as there might be some grant money available for like put in some playground or. I mean, he was discussing. I forget what he was discussing there, or that maybe COVID money being used to things that basically was it something parks? I can't.
You mean the grant?
It was another park he was talking about and getting
all inclusive. All inclusive. Playground at Northview. I think what he was talking. Another thing that would be good for, and again, you can't tear up the course, but we could possibly think about this as a music venue too. That'd be a great place to have if you kind of think of what the phrase or something like that. I wouldn't suggest building a big amphitheater or anything, but that would be a great place to have a concert. But you'd have to interrupt the golf,
Right.
I mean, golf is obviously a daytime sport. And there's things around when we this brainstorming of events. There's things that, and these we're not talking stuff happening every day, every week, but you'd say, okay, we're doing a car show. Well, that's on the calendar, so we know that tee time's got to get cut off on that day at a certain time. It's like I think we do that when we do Labor Day movie in the park. They end a little earlier just so that the course is clear.
And do we host any weddings out there at the moment? Or any?
COVID's been with COVID.
Yeah.
No. Prior to that, yes.
What's the capacity at the moment for a wedding?
4. I think the capacity is 400 or more. I mean, it's big.
So you open up that full banquet
Oh, yeah.
It's big.
huge.
Still a way to get kind of an all-inclusive wedding experience out there. I don't know if that's been a thing in the past, but that's a lucrative business.
Yeah.
And I don't know what impact it would have on the golf, if any.
You mean like we
We have the
offer that?
service.
We offer everything?
Yeah, we have the service. Well, I guess we wouldn't really be involved in the service, but at least have the venue for it. I know we have a caterer there at the moment, you know, and then so you have your service and your reception all in one place. That's a big business.
That does happen. I mean, that happens. That can happen anywhere. A lot of times, just you do the service and people walk out and they change up the seats.
But I didn't know if there would be enough room to really utilize the space there in a way that would be attractive for a young couple getting married in the Dayton area to compete with something.
There's enough space.
downtown.
Yeah, there's enough space. I mean, it's not going to be like the steam plant, you know, or someplace like that, but there's enough space for that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'll throw out, because I think this is important, and I don't know, I think we probably need to keep it amongst our group here. I don't know if it's a big secret or not, but the catering contract with who we have currently is ending in March. So we're going to continue. So I think Adrian does a fantastic job with food. He's a good cook. We had this conversation off and on all day today. He does a good job on the food, but the setup we have now, if you rent Meadowbrook, you can't bring in your own caterer, and you can't bring your own alcohol. So those kind of things turn people off. You know, and I think if we, so I don't know what we're going to do in March, but we're going to start those discussions to say, should we do something else? You know, I think the general consensus is, yes, we should do something else. Adrian won't stay unless he's the sole person. And I get it, you know, I mean, it's his business. But I think, you know, we've had, Adrian's shortfall is he's just not a salesman.
Yeah.
And we need somebody there who's going to actually
Bring the business in.
bring the business in, not turn them off.
Mhm.
We never have complaints on the food. Food's always really good, but that's only part of it. You know, we need the other part of it to help us there. So we don't, like I said, we've thrown around this whole Meadowbrook thing. We've been doing since I was on council. We've been talking about this, beating this horse to death, and there's a million ideas out there, but you know, we've never been able to settle on one to say, you know, this is the way we're going with it.
Is there any money in the budget to hire someone?
Well, I think it's, I'm going to say probably, the money's probably in the budget. It could probably be found in the budget. But we have to make sure we have the right, before anybody's going to do that, we have to make sure we have a plan.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
say,
what
look,
direction
this
to
is
go.
going to work.
Mhm.
Because I think it can work. Something can
Mhm.
work better than what we've got.
Mhm.
I think that opening up the catering, I think, will help. You know, we should probably go out, you know, we could go out there for a tour or show you guys some of this stuff. But like the kitchen's huge,
Mhm.
but only half of it works
Oh,
because it's all old stuff.
yeah.
You know, it's literally left over from the Jewish Country Club.
Oh,
You know,
no.
I mean, I'm talking, you know, rusty dishwasher and blah, 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 you know, it's all old stuff. And actually some of the equipment is Adrian's. So when he bought, so when he leaves, you know, we're going to have to rent it. But, you know, when you're talking about
Or buy
buying
it from
or something else, yeah.
him.
But, you know, getting a big commercial, outfitting a commercial kitchen is going to be a huge amount of money.
Yeah. And reality out there is, you know, got hit by the tornado.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I mean, we had, you know, what the back nine closed for 3 weeks, and then the front nine closed for another 2 or 3 weeks after that. So, in addition, you know, we've had a couple years of things very negatively affecting, and even though we had golf went great last year overall, but we had no events. Those, and so.
Did it turn a profit last year or not?
It'll never turn a profit.
Never.
That's the problem.
Maybe.
Like, yeah.
It's, we could get close, yeah, we could get, yeah. I think things, yeah.
It hasn't turned around.
It was better last year, and I think I'm right on this. Kevin's not here to correct me, so I'm gonna say, but I think the couple years previous, I think our deficit was about $250,000. 200 to 250. Last year, I think it was only 150.
We're getting closer.
So we got closer, but there's still quite a gap.
Yeah, it's going to start with an investment in things that do bring in revenue. Because parks anywhere,
Yeah.
I mean,
They
really,
cost money.
Yeah, and it is a place that it's not that simple. We close Meadowbrook. One, it's still it would still technically be our property. We'd have to sell it. How marketable is that property? And so it still would be a net loss on it, probably potentially close to that, as well. So.
But it would stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. But I think I've come like full circle because before I got onto council and had a lot of the conversations that we've had, I probably would have been okay with closing it. I'm thinking, unless we can run it in the black. But the longer, I shouldn't say the longer I've been on there, I quickly kind of got turned around to say it is a community asset that I think I'm not for selling it or closing it.
Yeah.
100%. I think it's up to us, the staff and groups like this to figure out what can we do to make it the very best we can for the city.
And Mike and I kind of think that it's almost makes sense. And to your point earlier, I mean, a couple of courses around here have closed down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a case to be made that we
Get their
works,
business.
right? We need
Yeah.
it here.
Mhm.
I guess one question could be, and I'm just throwing this out there, but maybe I'm kind of dump this over to Seth, but there's all kind of firms who look at existing properties and say, to Mike's question, how do we maximize this footprint? Is that, like, in your mind, could, and again, so I know as elected officials, sometimes you get 6 people in your room, you get 10 opinions. But like, would that be helpful? Like if somebody came in who does like a firm to say, all right, look, we're going to go out and really kind of gather people, almost like you did on the zoning plan, and kind of say, we need the community to show up and help us prioritize what this place could be. Is that, I mean, would that, in your professional opinion, would that be worth the exercise?
Yeah, I think so.
That's nothing that the engineering firm that we just approved to come in is going to really do it. That's more from the development side.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, there's probably specific firms that do facility planning, facility master planning. And I almost think that's what it needs. I've kind of thought that all along, that if we don't have one, solidified plan, we probably ought to try to get to that point, like to your point, Mike.
Mhm.
And it might take hiring someone that's not so invested or as a council member or as or as a resident to really look at it objectively and help guide us through it.
I'm afraid if we asked our community, if we threw it out there like we did, where we do the broad research and everything, I'm afraid the overall opinion would be negative because, again, it's a golf thing. And if you don't golf, you start adding up all the dots and you say, well, I never go to the fireworks. I never golf. I'd rather not support that. And I think you have to watch what you ask.
Yeah, although, and I hear you. I mean, could you start it? Well, I don't know. Tell me if you agree with this. Could you start the conversation by saying, hey, the consensus of the council, and a lot of people is we'd like to keep the golf here, but we hear you that this could be something better or something. I don't know. Tell me if maybe that's.
Well,
maybe that's naive.
I think Seth said it best. I think maybe that question wouldn't go out, wouldn't be broadcast out, but maybe to somebody could be more objective over it
Okay.
and say, look, somebody that could look at the financials, like you're saying, look at the financials, look at our current situation, and say, how can we maximize it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be for that.
I'll
Is
tell
that what
you,
you're thinking?
I do think you could have some community involvement, either a survey or some just kind of working sessions to have interested residents come out and talk about what they think it could be or what they'd like to see. I mean, you're not going to be able to do everything, but maybe build some consensus that way with the community.
Is there information in the documents that we have here about Meadowbrook?
I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot. I mean, it might have been touched on, but I don't think that we did a
Maybe in
real deep
comments,
dive.
but no actual
Yeah.
question about Meadowbrook.
Yeah, nothing specific.
Would there be an opportunity to potentially reach out to people who have similar venues in the community, whether it be a country club or even steam plant, say, hey, what would it take for you to utilize this? So the only reason I thought about it is because the guy who ran the wedding venue that my wife and I chose, he had multiple properties. And he would say, if you go to this property, I got a couple caterers that like this spot. If you go to this property, it's going to be cheaper on this end, but it might be more expensive here or whatnot. Let's say we approach someone who has a business already established, a venue, a country club. What would it almost take for them to add this to their portfolio? I don't even know if we could give them, like, actually add it to their portfolio, give them some type of commission or something to say, hey, you book this up all summer and they'll give you some cut off the top.
They could refer clients
something
to it.
Something like that, or even just say, hey, what if you own this, what would you do so that we could actually get a book full for the summer for weddings or something like that?
Good idea.
I would be curious to know how honest of an opinion they would give, as a competitor in the market. But like even law school, we have what we call a barrister's ball, which is law school prom. We did it at the Oakwood Country Club, and basically was just the closest venue. But what would it take for us to open that up for an event like that? Because it's a ton of money. The student government planned it.
Absolutely.
And I would like to know what it would take to get to that point.
Would you have
Or
like
if it would be worth it.
Right.
Because if it's not worth it, then let's explore the playground, walking path, pool, those type of traditional city. But if it could generate some revenue from being a event venue, I feel like that would get those people in the community who say it's a drain to maybe support it. And then we wouldn't have to compete with safety issues or tearing up the golf course unless a wedding gets a little too rowdy or something.
That's what the deposit's for.
Right.
You always got to plan on that.
Do they have executive meetings there or
We have Rotary there,
seminars, or-
Kiwanis there.
I'm just saying,
Some
like,
things like
some
that.
of the larger businesses in the area, they could have like retreats or things like that.
Yeah.
Open it up to those kind
Yeah.
of corporations.
Oh, that's always available. I think the biggest thing, obviously, talk 40 minutes on that. It's
This will go on and on.
Yeah.
I've been there and done that. All
I
this
think
already.
in the end, the big thing with Meadowbrook and what I've said, why I'm a fan of it, is we don't have a large gathering facility in this city outside. Before that, city we had nowhere to do fireworks. At heart.
Yeah.
I mean, we do like the Santa thing was here, so, we had the little tree out front, and then Santa would sit where it's now the prescription, the
I keep on forgetting I've got things to bring.
So I think that, and I think that's why a lot of us on council and government does want to keep the place and keep it running and grow it, is because we don't have anywhere else to do large. Because if we lose that, you know, there's a lot of things that I think the community likes that would unfortunately come to a halt.
Well, the events we've had there, I will say,
Good.
the fireworks and all that, especially the fireworks, when you compare them to, you know, I don't care who you compare them to, they blow everyone away.
Mhm.
They've done, all the events have been really good, and they're well attended. I mean, basically, like for the Santa and some of these other things, you know, that may be the only one we actually we cut off.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
we can only have so many people, but if we opened it up, we'd have a lot more people. Of course, you can't do that in December. You know, you can't be outside. But any of that stuff outside, it's well attended.
Fireworks, heck, and we get that at a fraction of the cost if we did, you know, doing it on Labor Day.
Yeah.
Then we're just competing with Cincinnati. There's a massive ordeal that people don't want to go.
But it's
Yeah.
really, it's been great.
Yeah.
I would say, and I'll just say, maybe I'll just take one prerogative here, like just the idea that Seth had that we talked about. I mean, I don't think any idea is or should be off the table because everybody's trying to do the same thing. We're trying to kind of use it to grow the economy here, to also help, you know, the city. But I am curious as to whether if somebody could come in with fresh eyes on it. And I know you've been talking about it forever, Mike. And I hear you too. Like some people, you might walk out of here out of those meetings saying, "Oh my God, nobody wants to play golf anymore." But I guess if somebody could come in and look at kind of the property or the fresh set eyes to say, "Here's how the city wants to maximize. They want to keep golf," which is a fair thing to say. I've played really bad golf there, and I would go back. So you know, and I think you could say the city wants to keep it. How can we maximize it? And that maybe you could attribute that to my curiosity. And it would cost money, like everything, to do it. But you might get some ideas out of it. And you might get some ideas out of it that actually give the city some, what's the right word? Sometimes when you bring folks in like that, it gives you, it gives you like, hey, this is what the study said. So we all got to kind of go in that direction.
Leverage.
Yeah, if it's a dumb idea, you don't want to do it.
Right.
One last thing I won't say anymore, because like I said, this can go on forever, but I want to just reiterate something because I think this is important, is we do have a timeline. And that, in my mind, that is going to be next March.
Okay.
Because that's a biggie. If we decide to take over, because the other thought is we're going to more or less take over the management of it from the city. And just leave it up to people that have weddings. You bring your own caterer. You bring here's the place. So that's kind of what the thought is if we don't re-up with Adrian, because we don't want to get pigeonholed again like we are right now.
Okay.
So I think that's
Next March.
It's next March, yeah. So I think we need to have some kind of direction at least by then. I mean, it gives us a little bit of time to work on this, but it's not forever.
Well, I did a bad job of allocating our time on that. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I knew that would happen.
I thought it was my number one until I read down a little bit more, but.
All right, let's go to the connected regional bike pass system. Everybody's heard about this one. That Metro Parks wants to fill in the arteries to connect the bike path, and the bike path connecting Clayton would connect to the one at Shoot Mill and Riverside. Thoughts on that?
Does the bike path that's, I guess, Wolf Creek, it runs kind of out that direction. Does that connect into the regional system at the moment?
That's a good question,
That was
Eric.
actually going to be my question.
Yeah.
Too. I think it does. It goes up through Brookville and.
Right. But then does it connect toward downtown Dayton?
I think it does.
But there's nothing connecting Clayton to that bike path at the moment, other than the surface streets.
So I think that'd be closer to it. That physically be closer to us than Shoot Mill, down by Shoot Mill area.
Might be.
Let us tap into whatever resources Metro Parks is interested in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, I was just curious about that. 'Cause I was
Yeah,
like,
that's a
well,
good question.
we got this bike path here, is that
Yeah.
what we're trying to connect? or
Well, they
trying-
followed that railway that it goes through Trotwood and out through Brookville. I'm not sure, I
Right.
hate to say I've never been on it, but
Mm.
it goes out that way.
The discussion that Seth and I had with Eric Sauer from Metro Parks was really the one coming up the Stillwater River. right?
Stillwater, yep, that just connecting the missing pieces. And you've talked about collaboration with Inglewood and our kind of our Northmont communities. Well, that would be a good one to do it on because they need property from Clayton, Inglewood, and Union, and they need a $2 million local match. So that might be a great opportunity to find a way to collaborate.
With that, so now with that 2 million, would that be something that could be spread between 3 communities?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah.
They just figure out
I want to make sure that.
we just have to
is,
figure
yeah.
out the mechanism of how to,
Yeah.
how to do it collaboratively. But,
I mean, if we were even just, throw this out there, doing it population wise, there you're talking probably about,
So it's not connected.
3/4 of a mil from us, 3/4 of a mil from Inglewood, and
Right.
then half from, if you just go off of the population.
Yeah.
So if we just, that's just, rough,
yeah.
rough way of looking at it there. But obviously that's a significant amount of money, but to tie into something like that, you see what the Metro Parks have done
Yeah.
around here.
It is, but I think that the benefit of that would be
Yeah.
unbelievable. Can
Yeah.
you imagine what you could, if you were an avid biker and you rode miles and miles and miles, where you could go.
Yeah.
You could go so far north, so far south. It'd be an incredible asset to the Clayton community, just from a recreational and kind
And
of a
how the
health
Metro Parks around
standpoint.
here have really utilized so much, especially in urban and area. I saw it was just the anniversary of Riverscape.
Yeah,
There and showing like the
Yeah.
opening night with, I remember all the fountains and the light shows they used to do, but you look at how that area is developed. And granted, we're talking about the bike path here, but to see what Metro Parks have done beyond just, I thought you used to think of Metro Park just as Inglewood Preserve and places like that. And you look at what they've done beyond to tie, and obviously they're tying parks in with these bike paths and
Yeah.
stuff. I'd be for it.
Let me ask, real quick, Bernard, Derek, what did you find on that? Is it connected?
The part that's in Clayton here, or I guess Inglewood, I don't know if any of it's actually in Clayton, does not connect downtown. And that's a pretty big hunk. Then our bike path in the area doesn't connect over to the one running through Sycamore
Right.
and Trotwood, but that one actually does make it all the way downtown.
Okay.
So we're kind of locked in by the surface streets around here if
Okay.
you want to ride your bike downtown, or you can go all the way over. And
But you're saying the one that goes over Trotwood does connect go downtown?
yeah, they at least have it on this Miami Valley Trail.
Well, I know it followed a rail, so that makes sense to
Makes sense.
me.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if people agree with this, but it might not be a bad idea for the city to have the guy that sent Eric Sauer, he's their planner for Metro Parks, just come out and have a conversation. And I think I think what Brendan said's right. Or what Seth said's right too, that this isn't just about Clayton, that it's a larger discussion. And so, would we all agree that that'd be a cool thing to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
cost-wise, we're looking at 25% between multiple jurisdictions shared, or each jurisdiction putting up 25, or how is that?
I think like Brendan said, if it's 2 million, and I think Harrison Township's included in that.
I think
Okay.
I think
Oh, really?
they're a
Okay.
part of it as well. Yeah.
Boy, what's Harrison Township population?
I think is it 28?
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
25.
far.
Yeah, 'cause you used to live there.
Yeah.
God, so.
Are there any other sources of funding for that?
No, I think Derek,
project?
you could probably, get MVRPC to help. And I think Eric is trying to get the attention of local governments on this. And I think, if the city said, hey, let's have you come into an executive session and kind of talk this through, tell us what we're looking at, he'd be great to do it. So,
We can do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but it might be, I think you could probably get some community champions. I'd be willing to bang the drum a little bit. Maybe we could get like what are maybe the service clubs. I don't know, you know.
What about a workshop outside of executive session so that there's media coverage? I mean, 'cause maybe that's what we really need, is that Clayton's talking about it. Maybe we should be talking about it as well.
We're talking about growing your housing market.
Well, we could even say, go further than say we're talking about it. We could say we're pushing it.
Yeah.
We, you know.
Take
we're pushing for
take
this.
the lead in the Northmont area on it.
Is there a timeline? I mean, have they kind of said within this time period of doing that?
No, I think, and this isn't the only gap, according to
Right.
what Seth and I heard. I mean, there's multiple kind of, you know, like
Right.
they built out the big system, but inside it, they've got these gaps.
Right.
Tell me if you think I'm right about this, but yeah. So there's not. I mean,
And that's good. I mean, this is
Yeah.
something, it's a major thing, and obviously dealing with multiple jurisdictions, it could take a few years here.
It's
Yeah.
a challenging, it's a challenging piece, a
Yeah.
challenging connection. And to Mike's point, like we don't have old rail line corridors.
Yeah,
And that's how
right.
so much of it was built.
Well, could we look at Plan B and say maybe in Clayton, since we don't have some of those natural things out there, that that's where we connect through our streets. We make a bike path on the street.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. I mean, to get to it, we're gonna have to find a way to get our residents to it safely and, somewhat efficiently. So,
I mean, maybe instead of.
I mean, there are trailheads and things
Yeah.
that you can take your bike to.
Well, I'm thinking instead of, as an alternative
Mhm.
to the $2 million fix, or, running an asphalt path from Wolf Creek over here, that maybe we kind of say part of the system is, you ride on the streets.
Yeah.
You got a lane for the bike. I mean, it's not quite the same, but it would, if
Yeah.
we could connect that way.
A lot of urban, I mean, downtown, there's a ton, they really.
Yeah, there's a lot of
utilize that in urban,
bike
so
lanes down
nothing
there.
says you can't do that in suburban areas.
Is their plan to just follow Stillwater?
Well, it's interesting to that question. You know where that shallow conservation area is? That's all publicly owned land, and they figure they can get from Shoup Mill, go through that. There's like an office park there, where like the guys who own Company 7 used to own a fire protection company there, right there, Morning Pride.
Yeah,
So they go through there, they go through Shallow Con, and they're basically at the Buckhorn Tavern, like, and then there's a problem where they have to get over the river though at some point, and that gets a little pricey because they got to build
A bridge.
a bridge.
People have bikes, just put a little ramp.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But the other part is, then it goes, because it can go through the county's Stillwater facility, because that's all public land. And then it gets, we saw that, right? It gets a little, they have a theory about getting it to here.
What's our service facility down by the Stillwater?
Woolery.
Woolery.
Yeah.
I think they need a little piece from there. They
Yeah.
need there's some privately owned stuff that they would, need to get an easement or acquire. Properties in Harrison, Inglewood, Union as well.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's
they're
why I'm
pretty
saying,
close.
when you're talking about the bridge portion, and if you're right at the Buckhorn, I'm pretty sure we're not gonna build another bridge over. That's where we could put a bike lane over the bridge right there by the Buckhorn,
Mhm.
where we could make it a little bit of a hybrid versus, I love the idea of having the wooded asphalt path for everyone. I think that'd be like a real nice one out in Greene County and all that.
Yeah.
But, is that doable for us, or?
Right.
I don't want to close the door on it, but I'm just saying, we may have to make it more of a hybrid
Yeah.
thing for us.
Yeah.
Looking at the map there, we're pretty far away from all of those areas.
Yeah. Sure.
The connectivity.
Well, I guess, and I don't even know if you'd have to make those decisions until you talk to them.
Yeah.
You listen to them.
Well, I think we definitely need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
See what it would take.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. All right. Are you okay with that? You'd like to get a sense where we are? Like you get a sense of where we are on that? Okay, okay, cool. Better access to parks. Do we need to say that? Do we need to say that?
I think it's well, in fact, like I mentioned, Jack was for golf and said he was working on a grant for, I forget which part. Northview.
Okay.
They really don't, to actually add, make it multi-use, but then also add a parking lot. And it's been a while since I've been over there, but yeah, it's like, yeah, they don't have a parking lot. So to kind of show, I think that kind of ties into that here. I mean, that's a basic access to a park. I know the one on Westbrook, Westbrook Park, that has just a tiny parking lot, and for some residents back in there don't quite like when it filled up and stuff. Maybe a lot of cars on the street, and it's a good thing if a lot of people are utilizing the parks, but at the same time, you don't want to irritate the area residents there who are around it. But yeah, having that access to them, that was one. You're not really looking for. You don't know how to even get to that point.
Right.
And that would take maybe a little bit of signage.
Right.
Thought we can add. Now we can add an entrance off of Westbrook there.
Or you
So
can widen the entrance up there
yeah.
somehow.
Mhm.
I don't know.
So back to that thought, if there was an entrance off of Westbrook, what would that take? And what would you take out in that park? Is it part of the, is it part of the pool, like the disc golf, or? Yeah.
That'd be the only, that's the only thing facing Westbrook.
But that's the real issue with that is, and I'm sure it's why it's never been done before, is that would really be a dangerous egress in and out.
You mean because there's not any wiggle?
Well, you're on a super steep hill. People drive crazy on Westbrook.
Yeah.
It's hilly, and that would be dangerous to make. I mean, if you go there and look at it, there's actually poles that look like you would guide you in. There's a chain across it, so you can't pull in. But I'm sure that's why it has never been done. It's pretty
slower
Was
speed
there
and
ever
almost
time
have
that
to.
you could drive them?
not that I know.
Yeah, because I sometimes wonder when I look at that, like, what's the?
Yeah.
I mean, it might
Maybe
be a little,
service access.
Maybe
or
service
something.
access or
Yeah.
something like that. But
So is that the highest and best use for that property? I'll ask that question.
well, it's funny you asked that question because I was going to actually say something that was this really was weird, but in our discussions, and Seth and I's discussions on all these things, I'm a park lover. I love the idea of having a park, and I love Inglewood Dam. We go down there a lot, and I love the green and blah, blah, blah. But we actually rated our whole park current setup anyway, as low priority. Because, and it's weird, what was really weird about it, that was the highest priority in all the research we did. Everybody wants parks, but our parks are, in my mind, probably land that just didn't get sold during the developments, except for Hardscrabble. That's been that's different, a little bit different down there at Clayton Park. But these other two parks that we have are not accessible. They're not accessible. They're not, the disc golf was a good idea because it did give purpose to it. But I mean, again, if you ask people that don't live right next to it where they're at, I guarantee you they don't know.
So should they not be there?
They were probably meant to be pocket parks for the subdivisions
Little neighborhood
that are around it. Not really community parks that people, really go to.
I think it's a good use of it because, I live near there and I know people that actually go there.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
right down to it. I think there's tennis courts.
yeah.
I think you definitely keep those pocket parks, but maybe not invest heavily in them. What about the idea of a centennial type park for the city of Clayton. It's a community-centric,
Where do we put that?
large park. I mean, you'd have to find the acreage.
Yeah.
But something large enough where you can do all the programming that you can think about for a park, you know, sports, you know, play equipment,
Mhm.
possibly a swimming pool. Like, where do kids go to swim in Clayton?
Melody Pool or.
I mean, I know your neighborhood has one,
Yeah, we
right?
have one. Valley Brook.
Where's Melody Pool?
Up on Clay Township, up by, you know, where the drive-in is,
Mhm.
up there.
Could you say, I'm just throwing this out there, could you say, we're gonna lessen our resources in those two parks because they're really neighborhood pocket parks,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna keep them, we're gonna lower them, we're gonna spend most of the mental energy and budget energy on Meadowbrook and Hardscrabble and look for another piece of green space. Is that it? I mean, I'm throwing that out there. Just, I mean, you probably don't spend a ton of money on Westbrook Park now, right?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, not a whole lot of it. It's more for maintenance. You know, obviously a lot of older trees back there, so we had to take out some just for safety. A lot of it's for safety reasons. I mean, disc golf, a lot of people do it. How much, you know, I know people who don't live in Clayton, live in some surrounding areas who use it, but you kind of look at it as, you know, how much is that really benefiting the city?
Could you say, like, we're gonna try to, I'm trying to put words in the committee's mouth, but like given what I'm hearing, like those two parks really probably don't touch a lot of people in the community. You know, Kim likes it and that's cool.
She lives right there.
Yeah, right.
The
and I get
people that
that.
are close probably use it a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Could we say that, Barbara? Like that the city realizes that that's not. Tell them wrong. The city realizes that those two parks aren't on the public radar, and it's okay, and probably should take less city money.
Basically, do we want to put it on the big public radar?
Yeah. I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
Yeah, right.
No.
But I do think for the folks that live there,
Yeah,
I think it needs to be
kept up.
as nice as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
Was one of the, I thought one of the goals, or part of one of the goals was to have the neighborhood parks and also building them with the new
Yeah.
developments and stuff like that,
Yeah.
so,
It is.
right?
Yeah, that's all in the plan.
In the plan.
Yeah, any new developments are gonna have some kind of a green space. to
Right.
it.
And those are normally managed, you know, within, if they have, you know, an HOA or
Yeah,
something like that, where these, obviously, we're having to manage.
City dollars.
I went out to, you know, I always talk about Centennial, because I think they do a fantastic job there. But I also was over at Huber Heights at Tom Cloud Park this past weekend. I mean, there's 2,000 to 3,000 people there. I mean, there was 4 or 5 softball games going on. There were people playing frisbee football over there. There's people walking everywhere. Parking lot's packed. But it's it's like Centennial,
Yeah.
big
area.
open space.
You know, we're normally, I mean, the spaces that you can get in that would be some of those areas around the high school.
Yeah.
And
Some of the farmland.
yeah, and with that, obviously, we're not gonna outbid, so, you know, if someone's wanting to sell that land, we ain't outbidding.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Yeah.
you can do a pocket listing, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's
right.
Kind of thing. You ever watch Parks and Rec? There was one of those where they were trying to get the big lands as a park instead of like the Grizzle, like the Google there, and cities are like, here's our offer, 0. It's like, but we want, you would look at better if you donated this. So here, we should carry that. Here.
Well,
no thanks.
This to that point, this lady that I actually know, I might have said this already, who owns that farm right down there on the Stillwater, right where you're talking about coming across.
Yeah.
You know, it's between the Stillwater River and the hospital.
Yeah.
Been for sale. I've known this lady forever. Well, you know, she was talking to me one day. She said, "Well, I didn't know you were a realtor." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I would have had you list the farm." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you know, you should have let me know." Blah blah blah. And you know, just we're having conversation going around. I said, you know, what's it listed for? And I want to say it's about 3 or 4 acres. It's not that big. $3 million.
Wow.
I go $3 million. well, no wonder it hasn't sold for
Right.
5 years. I'm thinking, you're like 10 times way overpriced.
Right.
And she goes, well, we're just hoping the hospital buys it. And I'm like, I told her, why don't you donate it to the city? And she's like, no. I don't think so. But anyway, that's the thing. If we could ever, come across something like,
Is it making money?
Well, now granted, there was obviously business reasons behind it, but I don't think it donated to us.
we never would have.
Oh, no, that wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
The good thing about saying that those two properties would take less of the city's attention is that then you don't have to start thinking about putting in a road to Westbrook or whatever.
it means the allocation of resources goes more just maintaining.
It could look better though.
I agree.
Yeah.
That part, I mean, just maybe appearance wise, make it look better, but not necessarily put a bunch of money in it.
And that's still good. I think that kind of ties under maintenance of it and curb appeal with things that I think we're saying, okay, we're not gonna put in a new road, we're not gonna invest into something heavy.
Increasing the parking lot.
Yeah, it's still our property. We still want it to look nice.
You want it to be safe. I mean, but there's an opportunity for the trash cans, maybe a couple benches.
And definitely
kind of
signage
Clayton
to
theme.
get to the entrance, so that's,
And they are working on that.
yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna.
One more thing on the access to the parks, but I think this also speaks to something that we talked about before, is the kind of the wayfinding, so people actually do know where they are.
Yeah.
And if you live right next to it, you know where it's at, but if you don't, and there may be some people that want to visit it, look for some.
I think we touched on that, with some kind of just overall
Better
like,
signage.
tying into that.
Yeah.
Could I just ask 2 questions on the remaining 3, because I know we gotta get to the 4th one. Is it fair to say that people agree that it's a good idea to improve bike pedestrian access where possible? Like, can we put that as a recommendation?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on that.
I think that ties in
Yeah.
with some of the other goals.
And then to Seth's, to the discussion we just had about, if there's an opportunity to outbid Google for the green space. Can we, I wouldn't put it that way, but if we can identify new green space where it makes sense, is that okay? We can make a recommendation for that. Okay. All right. The last one, maybe we'll spend a few minutes on this. Remind me how we talked about this before. So this, investigates the potential of Hardscrabble Park to offer more services beyond current use. Did we say that? I can't remember if we said keep it the same but improve it. Do you remember, Derek? Do you remember?
I think that's what the consensus was, because isn't there some issues with parking and bathrooms and
Some outdated facilities. I think to Mike's point, there are some missing bridges over the creek.
Okay.
There's some recreational stuff like tennis courts that aren't, operational.
Yeah, they're done over there.
Yeah.
They need.
Somebody needs to.
And could that be pickleball or converted?
where do the local youth play Little League at around here? Because I'm not.
Inglewood.
So it's all Centennial now?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
There is was it Clayton Wildcats or something?
There's
play
a select team and they actually help maintain the field
Yeah.
down there. So
There's multiple.
At Hardscrabble Park.
yeah.
In fact, I got a call from David White. He's the code enforcement officer for the city of Inglewood. He coaches his son on that team, and I think they're going to be replacing the scoreboard, and reached out to us for one approval and two a contribution if we'd be willing to. So I think we're going to help with that. But
That's there in Hardscrabble?
at Hardscrabble, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
The other thing about Hardscrabble that, again, this is just me, but again, this kind of goes to a conversation Brendan and I had today golfing. I'm really focused on aesthetics on these. That's just, in general, that's kind of my focus on everything, shallow as it might be. But, we use our parks as dumping grounds. And I think it just is absolutely, we need to stop that. I thought we did stop it at Westbrook Park, but I understand where we haven't stopped it completely. You know, when we have the, like the clean sweep events where we have brush chipped, well, we truck it right up there and dump it right in the park.
At Westbrook?
And I think I think it's a horrible practice. So we do that there and we do it at Hardscrabble too. And it's not so much that it's in the way, but it looks horrible. When you drive down Winger Road and you look off to the north side of Winger Road where Hardscrabble is, you know, there's piles of stone, piles of, you know, other stuff that we use. And I know cities have to have somewhere to do that, but it should not be in the park. Should not be in the park. And like I said, I've talked to Randy about it, and I really haven't talked to Amanda about it since she's been on, but I ragged on Rick about it from the beginning, especially at Westbrook, because that, I had residents calling me. What brought it to my attention, there was kids over there playing on these big piles of mulch, and it really could be, it's kind of a little bit maybe far-fetched, but it could be dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, a kid falls down and gets covered up in mulch, dies, what do, you know? And but I just think those are absolutely, you know, we should not be dumping stuff, anything in those parks.
I think most communities, their service departments have a facility for mulch
Well,
and
we have that.
stone.
We have plenty of space at Woolery.
Yeah.
Down there. Where the salt barn and there's
Yeah,
plenty of grass.
and there's just different, they use, I don't know, wood retaining walls or something, but they have different bays
Yeah,
set up
that's
for the
right.
different materials.
That's right.
That's probably what we need to do.
The dumping ground used to be, it's now Caterpillar. That's
Is
what
that
the-
right?
That's what the city used to have, that land out there. We sold it.
Then that would open up and add more room in the park.
Well, it just looks completely better.
At least
you
improve
know?
parking maybe
Yeah.
there at Westbrook.
That's like having the dump next to a park. You know, you
Yeah.
don't want that.
Right.
No one wants that.
Not to jump back on a subject we've already passed, but in competing with other developers for green space, would it be beneficial to have those developers also look at the parks and say, hey, is this something that you would rather buy instead of that? Maybe, and if it is land that we own, earmark the funds made from the sale of a existing park to the construction of a new park or renovation of another existing park. Because we also have a little bit of a housing shortage. So
Yeah.
development is important. You know, I don't know if the traffic complaints would be the same from the residents, but might open up some development opportunities and also revenue generating opportunity for. But just the.
Is everybody okay with that? Just the concept of just, you know, if there's, tell me if I'm saying this right way, but if there's a green space that is being underutilized, we shouldn't exclude the possibility of housing. Right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay?
Maybe we can get people to buy into the idea of selling an existing park for development.
To get another better
On the
park.
contingency.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Money is earmarked
Mhm.
for.
That's good. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned it because that could be a possibility.
But just looking at like Westbrook, if you put a few houses there, you would never know the difference.
Right. Right.
And I'm sure people.
It wouldn't
someone
affect,
would like
yeah.
to,
Overall, wouldn't affect.
yeah.
How many acres is that? I mean, that's pretty significant. I mean,
It's a pretty good size.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Larger
not huge.
park.
It's not huge for a park, but it's huge for, you know.
A neighborhood park.
40 houses or-
You're right.
I mean, I like the idea of having a neighborhood park in the different subdivisions. I think that's important because you don't always have to drive to have recreation. But my kids were growing up, we lived in a place where parks were nearby, so that was great. I mean, we could walk. But it would also be great to have that larger centric park where you can do all the programming that we try to cobble together at our different smaller parks. So, but I wouldn't want to completely get rid of neighborhood parks.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
They say one other thing, it's kind of on the periphery of the parks thing, but I'm just kind of curious to spend 1 minute on this. Curious to see what this committee thinks. Currently, we do not close the parks at night.
Okay.
all of them have gates. Again, this is something I went there with our previous city manager, and frankly, the people that would be responsible for doing it would be the police officers. The way we're set up now, I wouldn't say it'd be the only way, but you know, they're out driving around. And Chief didn't like the idea of that, and I get it. You know, there could be something more pressing with the police officer, but I think that I don't like that idea. I think they should be closed at night. You know, you don't drive through the Inglewood Dam at night. It's closed. So why, you know, I think part of our park policy needs to be they close at dusk and they open at dawn or whatever. And so maybe we need to explore different ideas on who could be doing that. I mean, we could get somebody maybe who would live nearby or something like that. You know, who else could be doing that?
Is there an issue with safety at the park, or is it just a
Well,
general
I don't
concept?
know how much safety, but I can tell you there's a lot of pot smoking and a lot of stuff like that that goes on in these parks at night. All the residents say that. And now that's not going to, you know, if you close the gate, it's not going to stop somebody from walking in.
Yeah.
I get it, but I think it gives us a little bit more teeth to say, you know what, it's closed. It's not wide open 24/7.
Do we have any signage currently that says the parks are
I
closed?
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Signage and locking the gate.
I like the idea of closing it up, but like I said, that didn't go over too well, but if we could find a way to do it, I think that'd be a good thing to do.
Do you want to add that in, Mike?
I mean, I'd like to keep it on. Like I said, I don't know if it really pertains to the scope of this, but
Is that in it?
I think that should be in our policy.
Yeah.
Our policy.
Okay, good. Well, we've got goal number 4, and this was the one that Mike and Seth worked on,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We felt like this was the most important one, by the way. That was Seth that said that, not me.
Wow.
No, they're all.
I mean, yeah, no,
Let's approach it this way, because there's a bunch of them.
there are a bunch, yeah.
So could you guys, and I know we've had one discussion about this further, but I guess this is obviously going to kind of fill the final report out. Like if we looked at all of them, could you kind of help us kind of say what the top, 3 or 4 really are, and maybe the ones that are combined?
Well, I think there's a lot of planning initiatives in our group of projects. But, I think that we're looking at some city standards for street lighting. We talked about, gateway program, at our entrances. How do we, when people arrive in Clayton, how do we get people to really know that they're here? Some standards books, and this kind of ties into, what Brendan and Kim worked on too, but standards books for street lighting, things of that nature. But then we get into some studies, some engineering studies like thoroughfare plan, access management, green infrastructure, water and sewer analysis, because there's definitely some areas where we just don't have water and sewer and probably need it. We talked a lot about, Mike and I did, about overhead utilities and kind of assessing where we might be able to bury utilities in existing areas. Certainly any new development, that's going to be a requirement that everything that can be is underground. That's an aesthetic thing. So, and then the sidewalk infill program, is a big one that we talked about as well. And I think that was touched on, Derek and Mindy, with your walkable neighborhoods as well. So, I think a lot of what we have to create great streets and complete streets ties in very well to the other goals as well. So.
And there's probably nothing in here that isn't I shouldn't say it that way. Is there anything in here that feels like it's just too hard, either from a monetary standpoint or from like a doable standpoint? Like if you said, it seems like most of these things, like if we all went to, like you did, Seth, like, kind of became planning professionals, that these are kind of logical, common sense things that the city should lean into, right?
I think that was our approach, is just providing the city with additional tools for the toolbox. When development comes in, looking at how the city can slowly but surely improve areas that that aren't being redeveloped or developed, just to kind of create a Clayton brand and a Clayton aesthetic, as time goes on.
One thing about this too, and Seth, I'll let you finish this one, but some of these things Seth's already working on.
Okay.
So I think that's important to note, because it's a long list.
Yeah.
But some of these things are underway already, and many of these things, probably half of them are things that we're going to probably end up getting some outside help on.
Yeah.
From the study standpoint.
I'd say that's true.
So I think it really condenses the list, that it's not such an overwhelming thing.
Yeah.
And city council has just authorized staff to enter into an agreement with Brand Civic Carroll. It's a civil engineering firm out of Cincinnati. Got a lot of great experience. And so I think they can be involved in some of these studies as well, from an engineering standpoint, thoroughfare plan, access management, green infrastructure, things like that. So
And some of these tied into, that's why we kind of did our co-meeting and,
right.
Like streetlight program for primary residential, standard for street lighting. I think that tied into what we said of signage and directional and things like that.
For sure.
When you say that some areas of the city lack water or lack, water, sewers, connectivity, where is that?
The old village is one prime example.
They're all well and septic out there.
The biggie.
Yeah. That's, obviously the more rural areas, but that's just reality of that. But the of a high density.
But even along Winger Road sections,
Right.
closer to Kroger's, we have Clayton residents along there that don't have any well.
Right next to
water sewer.
the house right next to Kroger's.
That's right.
The water runs right, Inglewood's line goes right through their front yard, and Inglewood will not let them tap in.
That made the papers. That was fine.
The biggest concern is the old village, because they're such small lots, and if their septic fails, what do you do? You can't really, because I think in Montgomery County, I think I mentioned this to Seth, I might be wrong on this, but I don't think so. Kim, you may know this. I think in Montgomery County right now, if you build a house, you cannot build a septic system. It has to be a mound system. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Pretty common. Yeah. So. So.
But I know they changed the inspection requirements and all of that for the septic systems like a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago.
But what my concern is, and we when I first got on council, we actually had a meeting in the old village, and of course it was well attended, and they were very vocal. They did not want sewer and water up there because it's a costly thing. But people that if any of you may remember, about 5 years, 6 years ago, Phillipsburg got mandated by the EPA, and all of a sudden it's not a choice.
Right.
That's why I think we need to be proactive on it, because we can do it on our time and not the short time.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
To them having to tap into
they had to build a new.
Water.
There was no.
Okay, so
There
they had
was
to build
no
a water
system.
facility.
Yeah.
That's a costly endeavor too.
Very
No
costly.
question.
Village that I live in it was built
Where's that?
Bloomingburg,
Okay.
outside of Washington Courthouse. We were audited multiple times. It's a home of Art Schleister.
Oh, there you go.
We're just talking about him.
We're talking about art today.
Not the good stuff.
I have plenty of art stories.
Yeah, it's funny.
When we built ours, the city government didn't do a very good job financially planning for it, and they're still in debt because of it after probably 15 years.
Wow.
And we were on, however the auditor gives you your red card, rating for years. I think we're up to yellow now, and it's been an issue, and the residents are still upset about it. And so it might be costly to them now, but on down the road, when it's forced upon you, the cost will be greater. And as the septic system ages, that cost will eventually come up anyway.
Well, the thing is, you look at some of the, like some of those houses are, really suited. They've done a great job redoing them and everything up there. But some of them, are the houses, it's only going to sell for, $30,000. So they don't want a $15,000 septic system.
Yeah, it's going to be at least
I mean,
20,000.
it becomes, but it's rough. But up there, like I said, they mandated it, and they did it and everything. But it's my gut feeling says they're probably in the same boat your town's in.
Yeah.
Are there other pockets out there besides Winger, or
There's a lot of,
There's a lot of places that still have the new Goodwill that was built is on well and septic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now they bought it and built it so that when the well and septic comes up Hope Road, that it'll be somewhat easier to tap into.
Right.
But they're on,
It's almost one of those things where it's development's coming. This is one of those things we have to take care of. It's just, it's one of those inevitable things that, don't get me wrong, I grew up in the boonies and I love some well water every once in a while, but it's one of those things that you can't have a functioning city if everyone's,
And a lot of people will not even look at a house if it has well and septic on it, especially if they have no history or
no knowledge of
with
it.
it. Yeah.
You're right. You're exactly right.
It can be daunting.
From an economic development standpoint, are there areas that could be developable that don't have the right infrastructure here too? Or that could have better infrastructure?
Areas that are developable today in Clayton that don't have the right infrastructure.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Maybe I'm being too vague, but like,
Well, they can tie in.
But some of it's a stretch.
Yeah.
Some of it's going to be a stretch.
I think a developer is going to look for property where utilities are close, because they're probably not going to want to build a new development or community with well and septic.
We don't even want that.
I guess I was thinking about industrial development.
I see.
For tax base.
There again, I think any new industrial, commercial, residential is going to want the water and sewer.
Well, like I say by the Caterpillar plant, when I see Jack putting out those, see this property for development. Is that stuff okay? Like, in the sense, is it ready to go? And I guess the reason I'm asking is like, is that something we should be talking about?
If you go west on 49 from Hogue, I think there's houses there now, but that's what we're hoping, that we'll get some light industrial in there. I think that's still,
it might need an extension to get.
but it's that's somewhat close enough.
Right.
But when you're talking about going out there on some of these large parcels that, Landis and all that up there. Now there is water on Haber. Up there, but there's not sewer. I think it's just water.
I think sewer is I'm thinking about the corner of National and Haber. I think sewer is to the west, so it would have to be extended slightly.
So,
Wow.
But developers will extend utilities, just not miles and miles. It's cost prohibitive.
Yeah. What happened with Caterpillar? I can't remember. Caterpillar.
I think that was before I came on the scene. But I think it was a bond.
Okay.
Maybe
I'm not sure. Something like that. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I'm curious what funding would be available for water and sewer.
Well, in terms of new development, TIPs are a great resource, because you can sort of redirect property taxes that they're going to pay anyway to build the new infrastructure for the development. And so it's a wonderful tool, and Clayton's used it, and we'll probably continue to use it for new development. So
One source that will not kick in any money is EPA. I can tell you that. They will not do it. Nope. I mean, you think they would, but
Yeah.
they don't.
no,
don't
they
do
just
that.
tell you what's wrong and
Yeah.
and
And
when
fine
you
you.
got to fix it, right?
They don't do that.
I mean, an issue is, say, oh, well, we need to put water sewer in these parcels here. Well, or might make it more marketable for development. Problem there, what if something ever comes in there?
Yeah.
And it does. I mean, this is my only limited knowledge from what I've seen on this. I mean, it hasn't seemed to have been a barrier on things so far, and some potential as well.
Yeah.
When it's close enough to ones that they can tie into. Obviously, TIFs, are get utilized to bring that in.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a hard thing of building. So it's kind of like when you hear cities build a sports stadium in hopes that the team comes in here and stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, 20 years later,
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah.
look at it at kind of that analogy of is it something invest taxpayer dollars now, or with maybe potential, you're running the risk there, whereas then you just wait, do a TIF when someone comes in, then you're not really investing tax dollars, you're just basically just not getting the revenue, but it's getting invested back into that problem.
Yeah, and I think as part of that study, you'd be looking at areas that are close enough and will probably be developed, and water and sewer will come in with the development or be extended with the development, versus the village and other areas where it may never be redeveloped, but there is a critical need for water and sewer there.
Yeah, that the village comes under that critical
Yeah.
part.
And maybe that's what that study uncovers, is just areas that the city needs to address, or at least
Well,
be a
if
part
they
of.
don't want to tap in, they want to keep their well and sewer, why is
They
there
don't.
critical, so they don't want it? I misunderstood, I thought you said they wanted.
They didn't know, the people that lived there didn't want it because they didn't want to spend the money.
They wanted it, they didn't want to spend the
They didn't
money.
want to spend the money.
Okay,
Right.
so
Once they saw how much it cost, they
If
said,
you'll
no, we
bring
can't.
it to us and you'll tap us in.
Even if you're on the
take it.
street, I think I'm saying this right, because I actually sold a house up there in Phillipsburg right when all that was going on. And I want to say it cost them $8,000 to tap into. That's the tap in fee. And
per house.
And the house is like 20 feet away from the line. It's really, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this is again, it's different people involved now, so we may have a completely different answer, but the whole issue because I was an idealist, I thought, my first thing, I'm going to push for this water and sewer up there in the village, because I still think it's really super important, but basically the answer from this building, against different people, so I don't mind saying it, was they would rather wait for the EPA mandate.
Wow.
Because I think it was a political thing.
They're not going to be ready when the EPA.
Well, the thing is,
so.
if the EPA says you do it, you do it.
Yeah.
And for us it's different when we're trying to convince people, hey, you need to do this, or you might get sick,
Yeah.
And
rowdy government, sometimes you make the higher levels.
When I heard
of
that,
the
I was
bad
like,
guy.
oh man, this is the opposite of what I thought.
Is there a requirement for them to have it inspected every so often?
I don't think so.
It's personal choice if
I
you
think
live
you're
on
on
the
your
well.
own until
Until you get ready to sell it.
until D-Day. Yeah. Until all of a sudden they come and they're like, yeah.
Of course, at that point, I mean, if people are screaming like, why didn't you do this? Like, we offered, y'all didn't want, then it's again, telling people maybe something they don't want to hear, but
Tried to tell you.
Is there any opportunity to finance it through anything similar to how we did the curbs, gutters through the neighborhoods around here, where maybe they tack on some service charge onto their water bill every month or sewer bill every month? Is there anything?
those are done on the income tax.
Or
The people that
Those are bonds, right?
Yeah, so we had
I think
to,
so.
so the city had to take in the bonds to cover that initially, and then basically from residents repaying is how we pay them off.
Is there any, is that a potential option?
It'd be a potential option. I don't know if the problem is it being popular for that hefty, because I mean the curbs for a lot of people were, you know, $1,000, $2,000 there. I forget what it was for folks. You're talking, yeah, I mean 8,000. I mean, you know, you're talking there. Even, you know, if you want to pay that off and pay it off in 16 years, still $500, you know, semi-annually. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard. That's hard.
There was a couple things on the curbs that were, or at least one thing that was different, is that curbs, and I don't remember us really using this to fall back on, other than a few like one-on-one discussions with people, because a lot of people didn't like that whole thing either. But curb and sidewalk maintenance is in the Ohio Revised Code. I don't think you see that in the water and sewer. The other bad thing about water and sewer is, and I learned this again when we were having that discussion, so I'm kind of fuzzy on the details on it, but it's like all these other sources of funding, for whatever reason, do not deal with water and sewer. They exclude water and sewer, like regional planning commission and things like that. You know, I mean, to me, that's kind of a regional, that should be a regional issue, but they don't deal with that.
Which is such a health, that's a health thing.
Yeah.
Mind you, work for a commercial plumbing supply company, and I've been in those. The higher ups like to do. Think about what we do. We have saved so many lives. Like, okay, guys, get. It's like, but essentially, you're clean water, sewage removal.
But a lot of them exclude those things specifically. So I don't know why.
Just because of so many different. I mean, there's a lot of places where septic is fine.
Yeah.
And it's the only viable option.
Right.
And a good system works perfectly fine.
Well, Kim said it right. If you're familiar with it, that's the way I grew up, and we had zero issues. We had great water, you know, and everything. But so the people that have that don't want messed with, but the people that don't have it or don't know, they don't even know if they have it. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I would pull it.
Yeah.
My brother's new well cost him $6,000.
Yeah, that's about what they cost a dig.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had to do it a few times.
Yeah.
For people, you know.
Are we missing anything on this last bucket of work? I mean, so if Mike or Cynthia got anything we gotta maybe put a stake in the ground on?
One thing that I want to throw out, and I don't want to keep, you know, add more and more stuff, but I talked, that's what I do. I had talked to Amanda and Seth also on this. I think that I can't believe I didn't really think of it when we were talking about it, but I think we need to look at the idea of, as far as being great streets, is having everything on camera, video camera. If you go to, I use the example again, I use Inglewood because I think they do a lot of stuff right over there. They've done a really good job in my mind. But if you drive into Inglewood from any point, you're on camera. Now, I don't really like the Big Brother thing, but I think it can be very helpful in saying we're a safe community, and if something does happen, you know, some idiot comes in and shoots up the place or robs a store or something, I think it would help us catch them, and I think it would help maybe help deter some crime. Now, the good thing is, Amanda had told me, I didn't even know this, but apparently that's kind of already on the radar where we're going to be.
So the cameras are at what their major intersections essentially.
Oh, yeah, but you know, when you come into Inglewood, they're all major intersections really.
Right.
But when you come in, you start looking around, you're on camera everywhere in Inglewood. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think that could be something that as we're building, I think we need to be cognizant of. I think that's, you know, probably the
as it, you know, kind of goes in with, talk about street lights, you know, street signs, things like that.
Yeah.
You had to get if we're gonna add in things like that, do it while we're changing.
Well,
the
that's
entire
kind of
system,
what
not
my
having to
point
go
was.
back and
Yeah.
retrofit.
Yeah.
Added.
Bad libertarian, bad libertarian. Stop.
It's okay. That's
Go
fine.
home, read 1984.
It's taken a little while, but I am getting him there. Pretty soon, he'll be.
That's funny.
We're getting there, Dan.
It's funny. Well, can I ask you, like, part of the, and my phone's not there, but does Englewood do it? They do it because they also want to help people, again, be safer, but do they also say to the businesses, we're doing this to help reduce crime? I mean, that's part of the message, is that?
I don't know if they put out that.
Okay.
To me, that should be our message, but I'm not sure. I don't see much coming out of Inglewood as far as communication like that. Do you? I mean, maybe I'm out of the loop on
Not
this.
that I've noticed.
They have a little different view of, I think they're more, I can't speak for them, but I think they're more on the big brother
Okay.
side
Okay.
of things.
Is there?
I don't think we need to take that
Yeah.
approach.
I mean, I think communities use it for different reasons. I mean, I think sometimes cameras are used for traffic flow at, on a major corridor. They can actually make real-time adjustments to the timing of the lights, because they're all looped together. So I think that's an aspect. I think you had asked Amanda about catching speeders, and she said, no, it's not for that. It's just really for the safety aspect.
For intersect, that's where majority of crashes happen. So
Yeah. And
I mean,
it could help with
when I got in a wreck on North Dixie, there wasn't a camera, and my story wasn't what side of it. So I was only a small side tip, but I'm there like, it's one of the times I wish there was a camera.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is Inglewood's a little different than we are too, because they have their own dispatch. So in other words, their dispatcher sits there watching all those cameras.
Okay.
They have all the screens, and we don't have that here. We're part of the regional dispatch, but so I asked Amanda, I said, well, what would we do? Basically, ours would be kind of probably a short-term recording.
Oh.
That there's a crash, we could possibly pull it up and see what happened. So it wouldn't be used for like every day, every little thing.
Right. Yeah.
But
To have that at intersections, I think
to me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
These days,
Yeah.
I never would have said it 20 years ago,
Sure.
but these
Yeah.
days, I think
That makes me feel more comfortable than having dispatch watching it all day too.
Yeah.
It's more palatable for.
well, like I said, I think they take a little different. They're different than we are. Their approach. They're more hardcore on that. You'll do. You got to do this and you got to do that. I don't think we're that way.
I'd be really interested in the effect it would have on a intuitive traffic system, your real-time adjustments, and because it seems to me the biggest complaint with development is traffic and those types of things. So like on the list, the two things that stick out to me the most are the thoroughfare plan and access management plan, because like I said, development's coming. Just like water and sewer, those are two things, and I think it would be beneficial to get out in front of those two on particular issues.
Well, I think Seth said the same thing. I think that you thought those were.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure.
We have that at times, like a traffic study gets put together, we basically require that of, some new development coming in. Now, it might be good for us to, just if we do that proactively for a lot of areas that we know are going to be developed. So we kind of know that ahead of time. We can say, okay, this intersection is going to need improved. What can you kick in for that to a developer? You coming in, it's going to be X amount more of vehicles coming in through on a daily basis.
A good thoroughfare plan might give us some ammunition, and the next time a developer comes in and the community pushes back against it too. What about the traffic? Well, we have that.
They'll just find something else to complain about.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Well, it helps them know the expectation. I mean, we have a road section that we want to create, as development occurs, and we need X amount of land to accomplish that, and in the right of way. So it's another tool.
Yeah.
Derek, do you want to, I mean, just throw this out there, but do you want to kind kind of in the report make a special emphasis on those 2 points?
I think that would be a great idea because a good thoroughfare plan and access management plan would help get the ball rolling on sidewalks and multi-use paths and any of those city centers. I think it almost seems like a first step or maybe even a 0 step, you know, because where
Has to be done, huh?
yeah, I don't see how we can take the plan to the community without having those questions answered, because those are the questions that I think they're going to bring.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for, that's a good point. Well, I think we're in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Yeah.
And we're winning. What's your suggestion then?
Well, so we've gone through all the goals. I think what I'd like to do is take a stab at putting together a 5-year implementation plan. It's going to look kind of like a list or a schedule of projects. Year 1 to 2, year 3 to 4, and we talked about longer term 5+ or call it aspirational type projects. And so I can put that together. I think you're working on a draft of the executive summary for that. Next meeting would be June 16th, 6 p.m. We come together and we kind of go over the drafts for executive summary and for the 5-year implementation plan or project list. And then, after that, we come to council and we present it, as a group. Obviously, you guys are on council, and so, you wouldn't be a part of that presentation, but, I think whoever can be there with the group to represent it, it would be good. I'll certainly take the lead, on the presentation, but I think it would be good to have everybody there, a strong showing, and, possibly answer some questions from certain council members and go from there. But that's the next couple steps I see coming along for us.
Would your goal be by the July meeting? Because the June 16th, well, next day we have council meeting.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're the next 3 months not doing the first meeting of the month as right now. So you'd be looking at that July 15th council meeting.
The second July meeting.
And that give you a month after what will be presumably our last meeting.
Yeah.
Here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's more than enough time, and if that works for this group, and obviously we need to reach out to Mindy and Seth Palace as well. But
so the last meeting of the group would be the June 16th.
Will be June 16th. Yeah.
We'll
put kind of the final coat of polish on the plan that we're going to present to council. Between that meeting and the July 15th council meeting, I'll put a final product together. Great. And then on the 15th, the group can present to council.
Okay. Will you, in that report or in the plan going forward, will there be X number of bullet points, even if it's 1, that we can start right now? Is that in the scope of this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's short term, right? So 1 to 2 years. I think we ought to be able to knock off some of those projects. I think the budget is set for 2021, but starting 2022 moving forward, I think we ought to start budgeting for some of these projects.
When Kevin starts on that, kind of end of the summer.
I think so, end of summer, early fall.
So you think even those early, kind of, the way government works, of those things we're saying immediate, that might be, okay, this needs to go into next year's budget. Yeah. There might be some of those things. And then there's things, obviously, the true low-hanging fruit of things that maybe just need a quick.
That's more what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think, that's a good
in-house kind of stuff.
Yeah, in-house stuff, and for some of these studies, the truth, we might have some money.
That's
Kevin
true.
might say, hey, we can afford to do the thoroughfare study now.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And if that's the case, again, my frustration with the whole government thing has just been, it's always so far away. And I know that there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But it can't be for everything.
Right.
You know, we gotta be doing something tomorrow. I think we owe the residents that as, you know, as staff and the elected officials. I think it's,
Maybe we can present some 2021 action items for staff. I mean, here's a couple things that we'd like you to start on this year yet. That maybe help to tee up, you know, some things next year and really get the ball rolling.
I think if people start, I think if we focus on, like I said, most of it's going to be like the low hanging fruit stuff.
Yeah.
But if we can do some of those things that people see, I think people they do recognize that, and they think, well, they must be doing something.
Yeah.
If you don't hear anything,
Spending our money.
if you don't hear anything, you know, then you know, like you say, quiet government's good government, and I do believe that. But not everyone, you know, some people like to say, hey, what are we doing over there? You
Right.
know?
Just for the, this would also help me, but can you give us the this meeting's recording in the last one?
Yeah.
In particular?
It's on the website.
Oh, it's on the website.
And this will be on the website in the morning.
Oh, great. Okay, that's perfect, Barbara. Thank you. That'll help us.
New awesome system.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Barbara, for helping us do this. We appreciate it. All right. Well, any other things for the good of the order?
I think that's it for this meeting.
Okay. Hey, what time is it? Oh, it's 8 minutes till. It's pretty good.
Did all right.
All right.
Just in time.
Yeah. I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
To adjourn.
I think we all second.
All right. All in favor? Thank you.
No one says anything, it must be good.
Yeah, that's right.